Hello everyone, welcome to our geography lesson for today. And today is all about how we identify different climate zones around the world. So we spoke about weather and climate last geography lesson briefly, and I wonder if you can remember the difference. Well, weather is something that changes daily, and it's the temperature and conditions for the day. Now, it can often be very, very different. For example, it can be hot, rainy, sunny, humid, overcast, freezing, or even snowy. And sometimes in the UK, we can get all that weather in one day, it seems. So some other words we can use to describe the weather is climate. Now, climate is different from weather because it's the average weather condition over a long period of time. So the climate is linked to its location in the world. So places near the equator, which is that imaginary band that runs around the center of the Earth, that will have a hotter climate than places near the North and South Poles, which have a colder climate. So climate is what you can expect to get in a certain place. So if you imagine you're in the North Pole, you're probably expecting it to be cold and snowy, and weather is what you actually get day by day. So there's different types of climate zones, and there's different sort of areas of the world, and we'll have a look at a diagram in a minute that will split up the world into these climate zones. So at the North and South Pole, these are the polar biomes, and it's very cold and dry all year round. So for example, Antarctica is a polar climate zone. Now it's interesting, it's very dry as well, which you might not expect, but actually Antarctica is one of the biggest deserts in the world because it's a polar desert and it doesn't get a lot of rainfall. It's very dry. Then we've got temperate places with cold winters and mild summers. So temperate is very much the weather that we have here in the UK. We get coldish winters and we don't ever get super hot summers. We have usually mild summers, and that's the weather in the UK. Arid is a climate that's very dry and hot all year round. So if you think about the Sahara Desert, that is an arid climate because it's very dry, it hardly ever rains, and it's very, very hot. Then you have a tropical climate, which is hot and wet all year round. So someone like Brazil has a tropical climate. A Mediterranean climate, which has dry, hot summers and mild winters. So somewhere like Spain would be a Mediterranean climate. And you have a mountainous climate, which because it's in the mountains and how high they are, it's very cold, sometimes wet all year round, which is why in some countries that at sea level is very warm, if you go up to the mountains, there can still be snow on the top of them because it is still very cold in those mountainous regions. So we've got the different climate zones all around the world, and you can see from the colours that the polar regions are at the top and at the bottom of the world. Now this is obviously a flat map and the world's a sphere, so the top parts are very, very cold, they're the polar regions, and then just below them you see the green band going through, which goes through a lot of what's Canada and the United States, and then into Europe, so Northern Europe, France, the UK, parts of Scandinavia, all the way across into Asia. We call that temperate climate. And then below that is Mediterranean. So the Mediterranean climate, you can see it mainly in kind of Central European countries and slightly in North Africa, but also you can see little bits of that Mediterranean climate in California, which is on the west coast of America. Can you see that little orange sliver on the left hand side? And you can see little pockets of it down the very tip of South Africa and on Australia as well. Then you can see the big swathes of red. There are tropical climates, so large parts of South America and parts of Asia and Africa as well. And then the blue parts are the mountainous climate. Now the thing that stands out a lot for me is the big blue line that goes through South America. That's the Andes, and that's a very long mountain range that obviously has a mountainous climate. Same for the Alps, which is that blue bit in Europe, and if you can see the Himalayas, there's lots of blue in that part as well. And we'll be looking at mountains in next term's geography. Okay, let's have a look, see what answers you've got. What did you put down for North Africa? If you look at Africa, is in the centre, and the northern part looks very arid, and there's a tiny, tiny tip of that bit which is Mediterranean. India, which is over this side, has got a kind of combination of tropical climate and also arid climate. Eastern USA looks very temperate, doesn't it? Russia is a mixture of polar and temperate. And then Central Australia is very arid, very dry, and you expect to see that in the centre of Australia. It's very hot. And the UK has a temperate climate, which we've discussed. Okay, so we're having a look at our focus then, because our sort of area where we're looking at is the continent of Africa. And I've got a map here which shows in more detail the climate zones in Africa. So Africa is an absolutely enormous continent, second largest in the world. And because of that, it's very, very different climate wherever you are in Africa. It's almost got every type of climate you can think of. Now, a slight apology from me, because when I was finding a climate map of Africa, the colours were slightly different. So if you look at the key on the side here, the arid areas are now red, tropical is blue and dark blue, so that's depending on how hot it is, the darker the blue. Mediterranean is that pinky purple colour, and then the temperate climate goes from the yellow to the green. So if you have a look, you can see there's lots of arid land in sort of North and Central Africa. Then it goes through some temperate lands, and it gets very, very tropical around the middle. You can see a really heavily blue, dense tropical area in the middle. And then it gets slightly more temperate. And then even towards the end in South Africa, there is a Mediterranean climate. Now, the thing which really interested me when I looked at this map was having a look at Madagascar. Now, Madagascar is that big island off the east of Africa. Can you see the one sticking out? Now, that one there looks like it's got so many different climates. It's got a tropical climate, it's got a little bit of a temperate climate as well, and it's a real mix. I wonder why that is. And the map we have now is to show you the different countries that make up Africa. And as you can see, there are so many. So our task is going to be to spend a little bit of time looking at the different countries and also looking at the climate within them. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to pause the video and see if you can jot down the answers. So can you see on the left-hand side you have the climate map of Africa, and on the right-hand side you've got the names of the countries. So I've put two maps on here so you can match up the country with what sort of climate is there. So first question, if I was doing an example, if I said what is the main climate in Algeria, what you would do is you would find Algeria, which is in the north of Africa there, look, and you'd go over to the map and find the same shape, which is there, and you say, okay, Algeria has a mainly arid climate, although at the very north it's a bit more temperate and Mediterranean. Okay, that was just an example. So, question 1. What would you say is the climate in the Democratic Republic of the Congo? Pause the video, write down your answer. Question 2. What is the main climate in Egypt? Pause the video again. Question 3. What sort of a climate do they have in Senegal? Question 4. What climate is there in Nigeria? Question 5. Write down 3 different types of climate you might find in South Africa. That's the country, South Africa. Next question, what sort of climate would you expect to find in Tanzania? And lastly, which 3 types of climate might you find in Chad? Okay, so hopefully you had a good look at those questions. I will put the answers up on a separate attachment for you, so you'll be able to go through those. But there's a task now, and this task is only really doable if you can print something out from Seesaw. If you can't, then we'll just have to have the task that you've already just done. But a little bonus task would be really good if you could print out this map, this blank map of Africa, and using the key that we've put on there, can you colour in the climate zones and see if you can identify all the countries? Now, to do that, you're probably going to want to go back in the video to the map that we were just working of, and if you pause that on your screen, you should be able to use that to label your countries and to draw in your climate zones. I look forward to seeing what you do from there. Okay, thank you. Bye.